Matthew continues, the angel said to the women, "Fear not." But first, I'm going to have from Mark, when they looked, they saw that this stone was rolled away, for it was very great. And entering into the sepulchre, they saw a young man sitting on the right side. Luke, they found the stone rolled away from the sepulchre. They entered in, found not the body of the Lord Jesus, and it came to pass as they were much perplexed about this, behold, 2 men stood by them in shining garments. John, and sees the stone taken away from the sepulchre. Then she ran and came to Simon Peter, to the other disciple whom Jesus loved. They, Peter, John, came. They looked. After they left, all the way down in 10, the disciples went away again to their home. Mary stood outside at the sepulchre weeping, and as she wept, she stooped down and looked. Mark and Luke just go right to the fact that they see the stone rolled away, and they enter in. John has... They see the stone. Again, I'm convinced that even though it mentions only Mary, that it's the whole group. They see the stone, and they go get Peter and John. Peter and John come look. And then after Peter and John leave, then they look inside. So I'm going to go with, they all see the stone. Then they run back. Where it says she ran, I could exchange that with they, and sees the stone taken away from the sepulchre. Luke. And they found the stone. I think that's better because it is a group. And Mark, when they looked, they saw that the stone was rolled away. Them looking should come first. And Mark, Luke, John. Now just Mark, when they looked, they saw. Luke, they found. So this they is at least Mark and Luke. They. I think I'm going to go with saw. Found is overall, but saw is a single act. They see that the stone was rolled away. The stone is both. John and sees the stone. So the stone is Mark, Luke, John. John has taken away. Luke rolled away. Mark was rolled away. So I'm going to go with was from Mark and then rolled away because that's the majority witness, Mark and Luke. John finishes from the sepulchre. Luke from the sepulchre. Mark just rolled away, for it was very great. You know, just saying that the stone was great doesn't make much sense. It should be, they were amazed, for it was very great. That would make sense, but there's none of that. It just says the stone was rolled away. If it said, and it was very great, that might be better. When they looked, they saw the stone was rolled away. No, I can't make it say that. Maybe I could put first, then they ran. Then say for Mark, for it was very great. Their shock that the stone was rolled away is what made them run and say, they have taken away the Lord out of the sepulchre, and we know not where they laid him. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I will have from the sepulchre. Luke and John have from the sepulchre. I'll just go with John. Then. And not she, but they from Mark and Luke. In Mark 16:2, I don't have they came to the sepulchre. I named the women. And in Luke, they came to the sepulchre, but I don't use that. I named them from verse 10. So I'm going to use those two they to say they ran for it was very great. The fact that it's a great stone isn't why it was rolled away. So their running is because they realized that's a big stone. Something miraculous happened. I thought it was kind of awkward having the stone was rolled away, then they ran. If it said, and they ran, for it was very great, would make a little bit more sense. So if I put then at the beginning of the verse, it would be perfectly fine. Then when they looked, they saw the stone was rolled away. And if I put and they ran, it reads even better. So the next part of the story is mostly John. The fact that they run to Simon, Peter, and John, and those two come to the sepulcher and see that Jesus is not there. There is a small mention in Luke about this. It's out of order, though. In Luke, the mention that Peter runs off to check out the tomb comes after the group of women come back and tell them all that they saw. Luke 24:12. Then arose Peter and ran to the sepulchre, and stooping down, he beheld the linen garments laid by themselves, and departed, wondering in himself at that which was come to pass. So I'll have just that one verse, 12. I'll combine that with John, that Peter and John ran. John has, and came to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved. You know what? I'm going to move the they from up top to down here, because if I do separate them with a period, I need to know who these people are that are running and arriving at the destination. It already has they earlier. When they looked, they saw it twice. Rolled away from the sepulchre and ran, for it was very great. And they, now John again, came to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved. And we know not where they have laid him. Now, Peter therefore went forth. Luke has, then arose Peter. Then and therefore are pretty much equivalent words. They don't mean exactly the same thing, but their purpose is the same. Then arose Peter, or because of that arose Peter, which would be Peter therefore went forth. I think I'm going to go with therefore. That's not a very common word here. There is a lot of thens and ands. So I'm going to go with Peter therefore arose. But I want to have arose from Luke. And went forth. Well, Luke already has and ran to the sepulchre, so I could have and there. So Peter is both Luke and John. Peter therefore from John arose. You gotta get up before you go anywhere. And ran to the sepulchre. Okay, I think I can have both. If I have went forth and that other disciple from John, then, and not just came to the sepulchre from John, but ran to the sepulchre. I think ran is better than came. So I'll have from John, went forth, and that other disciple. Now the and should be both. And came to the sepulchre, Luke, and ran to the sepulchre, yeah. Luke ran, now both again, to the sepulchre. I didn't realize how awkward this sentence was until I was finished at the end. Peter therefore arose, went forth, and that other disciple, and ran to the sepulchre. That doesn't work. It might work if I could say Peter therefore arose and went forth, and that other disciple, and ran to the sepulchre, but I don't have another and in here to use. Well, I guess I could take the and out from Luke, and ran to the sepulchre. Or I could reorder this sentence from the way John has it and say, Peter therefore arose, and that other disciple, and went forth. Well, either way, I'd have to have an and in there. So I'm going to take out the and from Luke here, have this one be only John. Arose, and.